Welcome to another episode of Writing on Caffeine, the podcast where you can come along on a journey with a father and daughter as we attempt to write our first novels. I am Jonathan Franzone, and this is my daughter.
I'm Reagan, also Franzone.
Tonight we are meeting at my house again, and I am drinking black tea. It's like a holiday spiced black tea with honey.
I am drinking a watered down caramel macchiato from Starbucks.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So today, since we finished our first drafts, we thought we would talk about the editing process and come up with a game plan for this coming year and what editing our books will look like.
Yes.
And so you got us started off with a great list. We can just jump into that and start digging in and see what the plan looks like there. And then I've started reading a book, and we can talk about some of that. I think a lot of it aligns well with what you came up with for a game plan. So we can talk about that if you want.
Yeah.
All right. So the first month, obviously, we took off.
Yes.
So put the manuscript away and don't look at it. I've looked at mine a couple times.
I have not. I started printing mine so I can by hand edit it.
Oh, did you?
But I haven't read it. I've been plotting another book.
Next book.
Thought I'd take the month off and do something fun.
You could do a little editing, little writing.
Yeah.
It'd be good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I looked at a couple of the beginning chapters where I just have like big placeholders in a couple places, and just to kind of get my head around how bad the first couple chapters were.
My first 10 are straight trash. Like, they have to be completely rewritten. They're so bad.
Yeah. So
that's where the t-shirts are coming from the first 10 chapters.
Nice. All right, so February looks like what? Macro edits?
Yes. So the first 2 weeks, I was thinking like reading through the manuscript without making changes, detailed notes on structure, pacing, plot, gaps, and inconsistencies. And then weeks 3 and 4 in February, we focus on large-scale rewrites and scene additions, tackling like one major structural issue at a time. So like go through and fix gaps in the story, go through and fix character arcs or pacing problems.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, macro edits are looking at the big picture, the overall structure of the story. I think that's definitely a good way to go in the beginning, because if you started like just line editing, then
yeah, nitpicking and then having to go back and fix everything is going to be a waste of time.
Yeah, you could end up throwing away large portions of that, which is just wasted work.
Right.
Great. So then in March, it looks like chapter level edits. So revise 10 chapters per week, 2 to 3 chapters during weeknights or more on weekends, focusing on improving dialogue, strengthening emotional beats, and tightening each chapter's flow.
Yeah.
I like that. So once you get the macro, the overall story fixed, then you just look at each chapter.
Yeah.
And how it works as a chapter standalone.
Yeah, I came up with this plan based on the fact that both of us have full-time jobs.
Yeah.
So I was like, we can't just sit down and fix 5 chapters a day. It's not really going to work like that.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. Absolutely.
All right, so in the month of April, we're looking at polishing character development. So the first couple weeks would look at like reviewing main character arcs and ensuring their motivations, relationships, and growths are consistent. And then weeks 3 and 4, we address secondary characters to ensure they serve the story effectively.
Yeah, I like that.
Which my story, I think, needs secondary characters because I don't think there are any. There's just...
Oh, really?
It's just like my 2 main characters, like, la la la, on an adventure.
Everything else is like an NPC.
Yeah. It's like random people we met in a village. Random people we met on the side of the road that you never see again.
What about so I guess the antagonist would count as a main character then.
Yeah.
Or would
it would.
Yeah.
I would consider the antagonist main character, but he doesn't really even show up till later, which I need to fix as well. It's like last chapter and it's like, here's the bad guy. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, you're going to have to lay some groundwork for that.
Yeah, I've got a lot of work to do in February.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if I have any side characters. I mean, I've got the main character and the main antagonist, and then the protagonist has a team, basically. One's a troll, and then 3 human kids. It's kind of like Stranger Things. It's a group of kids going against the bad guy.
But your point of view is going to be your main boy.
Yeah, the point of view is third person, but it's mainly from the main character.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've got lots of side characters. All right, where are we?
May.
Well, world building and magic system. I feel like we should do that sooner, but all right. Ensure world building details are clear, immersive, and consistent. And then strengthen the rules and presentation of the magic system. That's weeks 1 and 2. And then weeks 3 and 4, work on descriptions and sensory details to enhance immersion. Yeah, my magic system definitely needs some help.
Mine too, brother, because I didn't even know how it worked until halfway through the book.
Here's the problem. I knew how mine worked. I actually have like data sheets with the magic systems and how they work. But when the writing ensued, like all of that went out the window.
Yeah.
And I just like was throwing things everywhere.
Yes.
Like, I'm not sure how that fits in.
Well, mine was like, she does a magical thing. And then it's like in brackets, it's like, describe this later because I don't know. Like, what does magic look like? I'm not sure. I'll figure it out later.
That's great. All right. So June.
Oh, yes. Final rewrites and feedback. So the first 2 weeks, we're looking at addressing any lingering story issues or weak scenes. And then 3 and 4, we're sharing the manuscript with, this says beta readers or critique partners and providing them with specific questions to gather additional feedback. I think this is probably when we'll start sharing chapters with each other.
Yeah. So June, we should be like closing in on a final edited book.
Yeah.
And so then we're just doing, tweaking with each other's stories.
Right.
That sounds great. If we can get there.
We can do it. I believe in us.
And then July, incorporating feedback. So this would be the whole month. Tackle feedback systematically, focusing on areas highlighted by beta readers, refine scenes, and address any unresolved issues. So we might actually be able to move into some alpha readers or beta readers during this month and get some other people to read it.
Yeah.
And give us some feedback.
August, we're looking at line edits. So we're focusing on sentence level edits to improve flow, clarity, and prose, eliminating redundancies and awkward phrasing.
Yeah, just making it prettier.
Yeah, making it flow.
And then September, proofreading. So 3 weeks of conducting multiple rounds of proofreading, either solo or with professional help. We could hire this out. Checking for typos, grammatical errors, and formatting consistency. And then the last week, finalizing the manuscript.
Dun, dun.
Dun, dun.
So both October and November, I have scheduled for like pre-publication prep. So that's formatting the manuscript with a publishing platform, working with a cover artist to design our covers, which we've kind of secured.
Yeah.
We just have to get those actually looking like book covers.
Yeah, we found a great deal. It was a coupon code for 50% off of this one service. I can't even remember the name of the service.
Me either.
But I had bookmarked the service because I heard about it on a podcast that I listened to about writing. And so we got 50% off of a whole book deal. So they design your ebook cover art, your print cover art, social media art, the whole 9 yards. So we'll be able to get those done.
And then that last week in November, we're looking at like planning and executing a marketing and promotion strategy. So I have I bought a type of like calendar schedule for like a month leading up to publication.
Cool.
That will have like post ideas and things that will help.
Nice.
Marketing.
And then publishing in December. First week to ensure everything is in order for publishing date, and then celebration.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, so if we could do it right, we could actually have on Amazon, you could have a pre-purchase option. So you could build some hype for it leading up to that. Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
I think it would be fun also, instead of waiting till November, like we could put out social media posts or whatever about the process of editing. And obviously the podcast will be talking about the editing. So we could try to build some sort of excitement about the books.
Yeah.
Maybe
Try.
maybe link up with some other authors or groups of authors that have similar genres that we could start, getting into some of their readership circles. And
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, great.
That's
That
the
sounds
plan.
wonderful.
Go team.
So in preparation for editing, I've been reading a book. I haven't finished it. I'm about a quarter of the way through. It's James Scott Bell's self-editing book. Revision and Self-Editing for Publication by James Scott Bell.
Yes.
So he has a lot of basically what you came up with. In his system, you start out with the big picture.
Yep.
Macro editing. So starting to look at the story as a whole, and he has this lock system.
It's a acronym.
There it is. So he has an acronym, man, called LOCK, which stands for Lead, Objective, Conflict, and Knockout Ending. So in the lead, you're just ensuring that your protagonist is compelling, relatable, and active. Readers should care about your main character.
Funny.
Then objective, your protagonist must have a clear goal driving the story. What is their objective? Conflict. You need to have challenges for your protagonist. Do they escalate? And then you need a knockout ending. Your ending needs to pack a punch and satisfy the reader. So that's all in the first stage.
I think that's the only thing that I have is an ending that
You have a good ending.
can potentially satisfy my reader if I do the build up correctly.
That's good. Awesome.
It'll be fine. Or, it won't. And then we'll just focus on the next book. And that's okay too.
Well, everybody says that your first book is crap. So
I believe that 100% because mine is. It's literally trash, but that's okay.
well, somebody might still buy it. So
Somebody. We'll see.
we'll see. If the cover art's really good, then
Yeah, you never know. I'm sure some 12-year-old will be like, this is
And then he suggests after that to go into character deep dives, which you have that pretty much coming next. You have some chapter level edits, which is kind of part of the macro, and then you get into character development.
Yeah.
So it's following right along. So character arcs, motivation and backstory, dialogue. So
I need to work on that too. My
Yeah.
dialogue is bad.
his suggestion for dialogue is to edit for authenticity, and you need to make sure each character's voice should be distinct.
I need to work on that too because my characters sound the same.
Yes, all of my characters sound pretty much the same. I started out good. The chapters in the beginning were really terrible and just all over the place, but I was actively trying to give them all different voices. Maybe that's why the chapters ended up so bad. And we actually did a podcast episode on this.
Yes, we did.
On dialogue, so we may need to go back and revisit that during this season of editing.
Yeah. All my characters sound like me.
Yeah.
Like, this is how I would say it.
Yep. It's all the same.
Yep.
And then he goes into plot and structure with a scene by scene analysis for pacing, identifying the purpose. He says if a scene doesn't have a purpose, then you should cut it. And then making sure each scene has conflict and stakes, raising those stakes, etc. Which, yeah, that kind of falls. Really, everything he's talking about is February through May of the editing program. And then he gets into prose level editing or micro editing, which is, taking out the cliches.
So many.
Yeah. You've heard the show don't tell, so
Yes.
don't just exposit what they're doing, show what they're doing. Removing redundancies. He suggests reading your work aloud, which would help. I actually do this with other things. So I'll write it out and get all the phrasing right, and then I'll read it out loud to see how it flows and how it sounds on the ears. And often you'll pick up some sentences that just don't work well.
Yeah.
Just by reading it. And then also first impressions. So you want the beginning, you want that opening hook of your story to be really good
Yeah.
so that people want to keep reading it.
Mm-hmm.
I've started one book. Like every once in a while, I'll just pick some random ebook that's in my library and start reading it. And it's been a couple years ago, but I picked up this one book and there were so many grammatical errors in the first 5 sentences that I never even turned the page.
Oh
It
no.
was so bad.
I've read a book like that before.
Yeah.
I was like, nobody edited this.
Yeah, not even run through Grammarly.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Give Chat GPT a shot at that. It'll fix
Right.
it a little
Just
bit.
there's so many free tools you could use now just to fix grammar. So at least do that.
Yeah.
But then also hopefully make it a good hook.
Mm.
And then he gets into beta reader and final polishing, which is pretty much the plan you came up with. So
Yeah.
good job.
Go team.
Yeah, go team.
So I'm more worried about other people reading it than you reading it because I feel like, I don't know, we're like on the same page. We both know that this is trash
Right.
and it's gonna be fixed. But then like letting other people read it is a little scary to me.
Well, see, that's the good part because if it's really trash, then I'm going to tell you bluntly that it's really trash, but I'm also going to help you fix it. So
I feel like I'm just gonna tell you this right now. I feel like I'm gonna be a terrible like reviewer for you because when I read books, I'm like, it made me cry at the end. 5 stars. Like he's like, there are so many plot holes in this book. I'm like, I didn't catch any of them. I was going in the road like da-dunk, 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 and just driving along, listening to my music. Like, I'm having a good time because hey, I like this character. They're fun.
yeah. You
Doing
know,
my best.
I did read some books where that kind of happened to me. Like the first book was really good, and then I got into the second book, and I think I just had the feeling of the first book,
Yeah.
and so I was overlooking a lot of things, and it didn't feel as good as the first book, but I read it anyway. And then I got to the third book, and I was reading it, and it didn't feel as great, and
You're like, this is kind of not
I
good.
was like, I don't know what's wrong. And so I just went a few reviews and they started talking about all the things wrong with it. I was like, oh yeah.
Okay, one of my very, very favorite things to do ever is after I finish reading a book, I'll rate it, I'll write my review, but then I go into the 1-star reviews on
Oh yeah.
Goodreads. It is so absolutely hilarious because somebody is always hating on a book. But my favorite thing is when they're like 8 paragraphs long and somebody's just like ranting about how terrible it is. I'm like, this is so funny. I love this book, but you're also really right about all of these things. I think I just connected to the characters.
And I appreciate that they took that much effort
Yes. I'm like,
to write a bad review.
to write this because I'm cackling on the floor. This is so funny. It's like if you ever want to laugh, to all of our listeners out there, go to the 1-star reviews for the last Divergent book. It is the funniest thing ever. Even if you've never read it, it's just hilarious.
Yeah.
Spoilers, obviously.
I've never actually done this. I need to start doing that.
You need to because it's my favorite thing. Like I finished a book and I'm like, time to go to Goodreads and read all the bad reviews.
Nice. Yeah, I'll start doing that. So Reagan, tell me about the books that you've read since last time or are currently reading.
So since our last podcast, I read 6 books, almost 6 books.
Good job.
Thank you. I'm working really hard at reading a lot because I know that once I start writing, I'm not going to read as much. I have read Dark Harmony, Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, Serpent and Dove, Blood and Honey.
Okay.
Those are
That's a series?
No. It's 3 different series. So the Dark Harmony is like a siren novel, which was, I don't know, I wrote a review for it on Goodreads. It was like, this is the thing that we were talking about. Like the first book, I was like, yes, this is awesome. And then by the time I got to the 3rd book, I was like, what did I just read? Because like, I still like the characters, but like she had like a really great setup for a really, really cool ending. And then she just didn't do that. She did something else.
Oh no.
It was like, and now they're happy in a boring place forever. And I was like, what? No. Fourth Wing and Iron Flame are the Empyrean series by Rebecca Yarros. This is the series that I'm currently reading, the most released book, Onyx Storm, which is destroying me emotionally. And then Serpent and Dove is actually a series I read. Well, I read the first book like 2 years ago and I really liked it. And then I read the second book and I got about 4 chapters in and I was like, this is terrible. But I was depressed after finishing rereading Iron Flame. And so I picked it up again. I read the first book and I was like, okay, I can make it through this book. And I got through and I was like, finally started to pick up a little bit, but the characters are not the same characters. And this is something I really want to avoid. It's like people write a first book
Yeah.
and the characters are so rich and like they have such great personalities. And by the time you get to the second book, they've like simmered them down to like their very worst personality traits.
Oh, no.
It's like he's pouting the whole time and she's a jerk. Like,
Right.
that's the whole story. And I'm like, 500 pages of him being a whiner and her being a jerk is not fun for anybody.
No.
Even if it ends on a cliffhanger, I'm not even like excited to read the third book. But guess what? I'm going to, because why not?
You're such a glutton for punishment on
I
books.
know. I have to know how it ends. But it's definitely something I want to avoid because it really bothers me. It's like watching any Avengers movie.
Right.
Like they're just like you watch their individual movies. Like you watch Iron Man, you're like, he's so funny, he's so creative. And then you like watch him in Avengers and he's just a jerk. And then you watch Captain America and you're like, he's so like he's got such good morals and he's so great. And then you watch him in Avengers and you're like, he's just a buzzkill. Like that's literally his whole job.
Yeah.
Like, can we have some more character development here? Or at least can you have them sustain the character development that they've made
Right. Yeah.
their own movies into the Avengers movies instead of just boiling them down to all hating each other for the entire movie?
Yeah, on those, it's probably because there's so much going on and there's so many characters that, like, for them to punch through it all, they just have to be that.
It's terrible.
So they all become kind of caricatures.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Yeah.
And I never, ever, ever want anything like that to happen in a book that I write. So if my characters start being stupid, hit me with the book and tell me to rewrite it.
Rewrite this. It's
Rewrite
terrible.
this. So that's what I've read. I think I finished up a couple books from 2020. They redid Goodreads, and I can't find anything anymore.
I agree. The reading challenge screen is
Bad.
way different and worse.
I don't like it anymore.
I don't either.
2024. I'd finished reading. Oh, it was those Siren books. There were 4 of them.
Oh, okay.
So I read those, and I read. No, I already told you about that. That's all. Oh, also, I'm listening to Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets,
yes.
which I'm almost finished with. They just found out that the Chamber of Secrets is in Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. They're going to save Ginny.
Awesome. Those are great books.
I know. I forget. I get so frustrated every time I think about Harry Potter because every time I watch the movies, I like them a little less.
Yeah.
It's just the characters. They did it well, but it doesn't.
Except for the Half-Blood Prince.
Yes.
Which they totally destroyed.
Yes, I just get more frustrated with it every single time I watch it. So going back to the books is kind of like reigniting my love for these characters.
Yeah.
Because they're so deep and have so much character. And then you get to the movies and it's like Harry, his only job is to save the world. But in the books, it's like Harry is snarky and he's funny.
Yeah.
And he has like an actual personality. Ron isn't just stupid. He's helpful.
Yeah.
Hermione isn't just smart. She's funny too. And she's got her own personality. Like, it's just annoying.
Yeah.
The way they do that.
And Jim Dale is an amazing performer.
Ginny actually has a personality in the books. I always forget that part.
Yeah.
Because Ginny is such a flat character in the movies.
She is.
She's literally the worst.
She's just, in the movies, she's just really good at magic and she loves Harry.
Not even. She's just like subpar. She just exists.
Right.
Sometimes for Harry to glance longingly at her. That's
Right.
the only purpose. And then do that weird zipper dress scene in the Deathly Hallows.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the most uncomfortable thing I've ever watched in my entire life.
Well, yeah. Kid romance is awkward. And
It is.
uncomfortable.
Ugh.
It's not a good thing.
It's a bad time.
Yeah, it is. So for me, I finished 4 books since last time.
Good job.
Absolute Surrender by Andrew Murray. He's a Puritan. It's a Christian book. The Federal Vision, which is a collection of essays edited by Steve Wilkins. And now that I've said that on the podcast, we're probably going to get banned from all sorts of Christian people because federal vision is a trigger word. Christianity and Liberalism by J. Gresham Machen. Very good book. It's a little dated, and some of the arguments he goes into against the liberal drift in Christian churches, you can tell its age. Because the drift now looks a little different. It's pretty much the same, but it looks a little different.
Yeah.
But it's still a really good book. And then the fiction book I finished is called The House with a Clock in Its Walls by John Bellairs.
Yeah, I think you were telling me about this.
Yeah, so it's an older book, and then they made it into a movie in 2018 with Jack Black.
Nice.
And so it's about this young kid whose parents die. Their parents always die,
Their
right?
parents are always dead.
Same in Jumanji. Their parents die, and so they go to this house with their aunt.
I love that movie.
It's a great movie, right? And it's always to a weird house too, right?
Yeah, to a weird house.
So this kid goes to live with his uncle in this strange house, and there's a ticking in the walls. There's a clock in the walls. And so his uncle just covers the entire house with clocks to cover up the sound of the magic clock in the walls.
Oh, that sounds annoying.
But then sometimes he can't sleep, and so his uncle will go through the house like after midnight, turning off all the clocks until they're all off, and then he goes to sleep.
With the one ticking.
With the one ticking.
It's like that Doctor Who episode.
Yeah.
Ooh.
With the French.
Yeah, the
Madame de Pompadour.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, his uncle is a magician, and his neighbor is this old witch lady, and she's always coming over, and they hang out. And then the kid ends up accidentally setting this old witch lady free from her grave.
Oh, whoops.
And she's trying to get to the clock because she can use the clock to basically destroy everything.
Right on.
And so that's the big struggle.
Yeah. Okay.
It's really good.
Cool.
I was
telling you this before when you were telling me about this book a couple days ago. It sounds like a mix between Lock and Key and Coraline.
I've never seen Coraline. So.
They move away, and she goes to this weird house, and she finds a key that opens a door that leads to a portal to the other world where her parents actually care about her, and everything's colorful.
Right.
And there's like weird people that live next door.
Yeah.
And a cat that talks.
Yeah, there's this in this book. It's really. I'm interested to watch the movie. I know they probably destroyed the book, but there's so many fun things they could do in the movie. So, for instance, there's an organ. It's a player organ in the house. And so you can either play the organ or you can put on these music reels and it'll just play the music. But the organ has its own personality. And so sometimes it'll just start playing like theme music for whatever they're going through.
Oh my gosh.
Just in the background.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah, it's kind of fun.
I've seen videos like that on the internet when it's like this kid, he's like sitting on the couch with his guitar. And it's like playing theme music for my brother getting in trouble. And you can see the little brother getting yelled at by the mom in the background. He's playing like, don't. And then the mom gets mad.
And then I also started The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt, or Haidt. Not sure how that's pronounced. It's a nonfiction book. He's not a Christian author. I think he's a scientist, or I don't know what he is. Anyway, he's talking about Gen Z and how they're so anxious.
Facts.
And he links it to the release of the smartphone. So he talks about a play-based childhood versus a phone-based childhood.
Yeah.
And he very compellingly makes the argument that right about the time where Gen Z is coming through puberty, like you have an explosion of these 10 to 15-year-old girls, especially with smartphones on Instagram, and like it's just wreaked havoc with this generation. And so it's caused a lot of problems.
Yeah.
I'm actually listening to the book, but so he has a solution in there, but I'm sure it's going to be something like, don't give them phones too early.
Shocker.
Shocker. Which
all the iPad kids running around.
Right. So we're not real big on giving our kids screens too early. Revision and self-editing for publication, which we already talked about.
Yes.
So I'm still reading that. The Lord's Service by Jeffrey Myers. It's a Christian book about liturgy. And then I've got back burners. So The Hobbit by Tolkien, which we started 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah, we did, because I started reading it in 2023.
Right. So I'm supposed to be doing an annotation read through this hard copy. So I hope to pick that back up.
Me too.
Start making some progress on it. And then The Brothers Karamazov by Dostoevsky. I do want to finish that this year.
That's your long term.
That's my mountain book that I'm going to finish.
That's taking the place of Ayn Rand's.
Yes, Atlas Shrugged.
Atlas Shrugged. Gosh.
That book was a beast.
I've got some back burners too that I forgot about.
Yeah,
I'm also reading The Hobbit. I'm about 14% through. I'm also reading Crush by Tracy Wolff, which is that vampire
the parody
novel.
Nice.
The second one, and it's so bad, but it's so funny. It's just, I don't know what to do with it, because like I'm interested while I'm reading it, but not like interested enough to like feel the need to continue reading it after I put it down, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's entertaining but not immersive, you know,
Yeah.
because she's like, this is crazy. It's almost like I'm in a vampire movie. And you're like, oh my gosh, girl, you are so stupid. Like, there's bite marks on his neck. Like, what do you think is happening? It's just funny.
It's just funny and stupid.
Yeah. There's like 8 of them. So, you know, I'm going to read all of them.
Why?
Because I'm a glutton for punishment.
That's terrible.
I'm also still going through my 3rd reread of the Throne of Glass series.
Of course.
Because I started an annotation read through and I got stuck on book 4, so I've been reading that for a while. And I think that's all.
Well, thank you for joining us in this episode of Writing on Caffeine. We hope you'll join us again in probably 4 weeks.
Yep.
Please subscribe wherever you find podcasts. If you are so inclined, leave us a review. 5-star reviews are preferable. And be sure to visit the website, writingoncaffeine.com, where you can view the show notes and subscribe to our email list so that you never miss an episode.
Bye.
Bye.
Tumbled out of bed and stumbled to the kitchen, pouring myself a cup of ambition and I don't know the rest of it. Something.
It's going to be in the bloopers.
Perfect.